Hello, and welcome to the Tenfold AI podcast. I'm Heather. This is Matt. This podcast is sponsored by ProMode.ai, the first ever B2B marketing engine powered by AI, custom built for companies to do all your digital marketing for you at a fraction of the cost of an agency or an in-house team. We talk about AI. We talk about avoiding shiny object syndrome as a business leader, a business owner. How can you get the most out of AI and avoid just kind of wasting time, being disappointed, wondering what the hell Elon Musk and the billionaire set are talking about? We make it land for you, or we try to really hard. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a hell of a week. It's like every single day is just a roller coaster of craziness. It's like that's startup land anyway, and you're very familiar with software startup land, but you add in the AI component and the AI environment, and then you add in the economic conditions, and every single day is like, I don't know, it's like 3 different business cycles in one day every day, it seems.
Yes. Yeah. Especially we're going to talk about it, at some point, but especially, with any business, any time that you're there's an element of like educating the market or explaining workflows. We literally just got off a call with a client of ours and we're kind of walking through, hey, here's some ways that you can use this. But really one of the challenges with AI is that it is so flexible. So this client was getting into a new line of business, which is amazing. They're killing it. But it's like, so we're talking about, hey, just all of these capabilities that your company has, just copy and paste them into Pro Mode and just connect the dots between your capabilities and this new line of business that just emerged. So like it's interesting because like sort of tangentially, this company is also working in the AI space in this. So it's like this emerging market that they just happen to be highly suited for. And so it's like, okay, just you need to this new market, just type that and then copy and paste your capabilities over here. And then there's a campaign. There's like all the sales material you need. It's a re-education that,
Totally.
you know,
Yeah, and I think it's probably the thing I enjoy the most, but it's also the biggest challenge is the educating the market in this totally different way of approaching technology, which I'm excited about because to me, it's a far more intuitive way to approach technology, but it's kind of unlearning all of the digital marketing or the tech practices that our clients have had or our prospects have had because they're so used to bending the way they think to the capabilities of whatever they're using. And we
yes,
talked about this last week where you showed the spreadsheet and here's sort of how software has always worked. It's essentially a spreadsheet behind a user interface. And then here's how AI works. And it's a spherical D spreadsheet that is more closely aligned with how the human brain works and how we naturally would have language and ask questions and
hmm
make requests. You don't have to robotize yourself. So yeah, it's that untraining, like, hey, and we're going to talk about SEO today. And I think it ties in directly with that, right?
yes, 100%. Yep, yep. I'm looking for a decent graph right now, but maybe tee it up a little bit for us. What is
Yeah.
changing
So
in SEO? Actually, or maybe how did SEO look leading up to this time? Just give us like a little bit of backstory here.
yeah, well, I think a good place to start is like, what am I hearing today from clients and prospects about SEO? When we're talking about pro mode, when we're talking about AI SEO, what are what are the boots on the ground conversations like with business owners, with business leaders? And I will tell you, they are asking about keywords. They are asking about backlinks and meta descriptions. And does ProMode handle keywords? How will we rank for these keywords? So the only reason these people are asking these questions is because people like me years ago sold them digital marketing and SEO services, and we were very good at it. I could sell the pants off of SEO. Are you kidding? And it's mostly by saying a bunch of words that a prospect doesn't understand and making it sound really, really hard, because you're connecting the sale of the SEO service with what they really want, which is a competitive advantage, right? They want to be ahead of the other guy in search because logically you will get found more often, you will be clicked on more often, people will buy from you more often. And so there's that race to the top of page one in Google that is very easy to sell into, especially if you have a long list of words and this whole digital marketing vocabulary that you can call on to make it all sound very, very difficult and expensive, right? And so these clients and prospects today have been so indoctrinated by salespeople, by agency owners, by everything they've ever heard about SEO. And so they feel like they're being good shoppers by asking questions like, does ProMode, how do I tell it what keywords to use? Or, they're kind of using these SEO buzzwords in their shopping experience. And we're like, okay, before I directly answer your question, which is yes, ProMode injects the right keywords at the right frequencies, but let's zoom out and have a bigger conversation about the future of the internet and where the internet is today and how people find content today and the trend that is exponentially growing in terms of AI search. And so that's where the conversation becomes difficult because, the light bulb goes on at different times. It's like, and here's my understanding, correct me or, iterate on a more technical level, however you want. But my understanding is pre-AI search, Google, Perplexity, all of these things, pre-AI search, the way a company would rank for a particular keyword was the search engine would look for a series of triggers that are occurring in and around your website to assess for authority regarding a particular keyword. One of the things it would look at, and it's in my head, I'm like a very visual kind of fantastical person. I almost imagine like a robot looking at a dashboard of blinking lights. And the blinking light is either on or it's off. Do they have above this many backlinks on? Do they have this many keywords on? Do they have too much of that keyword off? Like what are the triggers that robot is looking at to assess for value and authority in your website?
Yep.
Am I on track?
Nailed it. Yeah.
So there's this long list of lights that are on that dashboard, your schema cataloging, your site speed, your backlink number, backlink authority, all of these different factors dictate whether those lights are on or off. The more lights you have on that dashboard, the more likely you are to rank highly for your keywords. Right? Which is why SEO would take a long time to build, because there's a lot of very it's not sophisticated, it's not difficult work, it's just tedious. There's a lot of tedious steps involved to get those lights to go on that dashboard.
Yeah.
Which is, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and to frame this historically, like what brought us to this place, I think will also help people understand what is the underlying thing that was occurring throughout the history of the internet and the history of search that led to this. Okay. So when e-commerce, so when people first became okay with buying things online, probably recall a time when people were suspicious about putting their credit card onto the internet. And so this would have been like the early .com bubble is what we all know it as. But so during this time, there was search. So you could search the internet. At about the same time, people started putting their credit card out on the internet. So then all of a sudden, we know how to monetize this thing. And so there were all of these companies that popped up that would just do these like real simple, like drop ship. They would have a manufacturing relationship with a company in China. This is like pre-Amazon, right? But so you would just have all of these cheap goods, and then you could rank higher. So if somebody wanted to buy a pair of shoes on the internet, people realize the higher we rank in that, the more likely our shoes are to be displayed. And because it was a very unsophisticated search algorithm at that time, it was very easy to hack. So what people were doing is they were putting like transparent text all over their site just so that this random like a random kid in a basement could get his shoe company to the top of the rankings. And you had all kinds of fraud going on at that time, people not having products, taking payments. It was a nightmare. And so then Google had to become more sophisticated with how they served up these search results. So they started creating all of these proxies for this being a legitimate e-commerce online business.
Right. A proxy.
Backlinks,
That's,
yeah,
yeah, good word for it.
backlinks were one of those things. So like having links to your online platform on other blogs. So if I have a shoe blog and I write about the best source of, and my shoe blog has a lot of people reading it, I write about the best online shoe store ever. And if several of those blogs mention this online shoe store, that's a proxy for this is probably a legit operation. And so that's how, like, that's when we entered into this new era of SEO where you have to have backlinks. You can't put a bunch of transparent text on your website. You need to have meta descriptions and things like that. But now the important thing to keep in mind is that the intention of all of this was to establish authority for online commerce, right?
Mm,
This is, you are e-commerce, you sell things on the internet. How do we create, like, Google essentially created, like, Google is like the Better Business Bureau of online retailers. Okay. Now enter into the next era of search, and we have trends. So now all of a sudden, with everybody is now online, especially with mobile, you have trends that occur. So things are trending online and getting a lot of traffic. And people start to go to the internet to have their questions answered. So like they're asking Google how to lace up your sneakers and things like that. So then enter in the strategy of, we can now research how many people are Googling how to lace up their sneakers. And so now this e-commerce platform will have an educational blog that teaches people how to lace up their sneakers. And
mhm.
because e-commerce, the majority of their sales and marketing spend is done online, they would then, that person goes to their blog on how to lace up sneakers, and then they put a pixel in that person's browser, and then that e-commerce brand follows that person all around the internet, serving up ads to them because they landed on that website. To, like, them getting the answer to lacing up their sneakers was not a simultaneous buying decision. That
Right.
was a tool to put a pixel in their browser.
Yeah.
Now enter into
Which,
the agency world where this can be hacked. We can now show charts that show we got 10,000 people on your website this month because of our SEO services.
right.
Never really showing the other graphs that demonstrate, yeah, you got all of these visitors, but you don't have a paid ad strategy. You didn't do it properly where you installed a pixel, followed them around, and served up ads at all of these key moments in their buying journey. We're just showing you the graph of the visitor because we can hack these trends and these questions that people are asking.
Mhm.
So that's what brings us up to like present day SEO as we talk about it with our customer.
Mhm. Yeah, and that ability to add a pixel and then retarget with ads was kind of like I don't know, that was like the birth of full funnel digital marketing, the ability to do that. Because you can now, like you said, massage people through that buying journey. Um, And it was a very, it's an upside down triangle. Here's your funnel. Here's the tactics associated with that funnel. Today, that funnel is more like a game board map of different directions. And there's lots of different entry points and buying journeys that occur because there's so many places to find information and ad blockers and all sorts of things that can be used to change that buying journey.
Totally. And I think the really important thing for people to take away is this strategy of like informational content and like targeted keywords on blogs and everything. Like it's important to remember that this strategy exists for e-commerce. It's like we don't actually need them to know the answer to this thing. We just need them on this domain so that we can install a pixel in their browser. It's the only point is how many people can we get in here and onto our funnel. But the unfortunate thing is that a lot of the companies, all of the companies that we talk to about SEO, they're not e-commerce. They
Yeah.
don't have a full funnel paid digital ad strategy. Their marketing and their sales and marketing budgets are going to salespeople and teams and marketing directors. And so they sort of have been captured by this particular concept, this particular strategy that is exclusive to e-commerce. The whole thing, this whole ecosystem was built
Interesting.
online for online commerce. And
So are you saying you don't think SEO matters at all to B2B companies?
far less than you think it does. I mean, if you look at, I mean, I have looked at so many people's SEO reports. Well, and it depends on what you mean by it. Like, we need to like define what do we mean by SEO, right? It is because at the end of the day, you want to know what results in more revenue, right? Because that is the ultimate goal. Like you could have, like we all agree that if you had a website that had 1 million daily visitors, but no connection to revenue, like we know that your revenue can remain flat and your visitor count go up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
That's true.
and the reverse is true. Like all of our, like we see all kinds of people who, now that the informational search has been cannibalized by AI, like we see people whose traffic has gone down precipitously, but their revenue is going up. So like,
Yeah,
okay,
like
there must
HubSpot.
not be, yeah, there must not be any correlation here.
Yeah.
So like to highlight, just I'm gonna like walk through an example of what this might look like. So here's an example of I mean, this is like an extreme strategy, but here I'm looking at over the last 5 years, what has interest in Diddy. So I'm looking at Google searches for Diddy over the last 5 years. So as we see here, like, on a scale of 1 to 100, it is a 1, it is a 4, it is an 11, and then boom, all the accusations come out and it spikes to a 100, levels out, spikes again when his trial just recently started. It is spiking up again because we're right in the middle of like jury deliberations, all those kinds of things, right? So if I were a savvy marketing agency, what I would do is I would create blog posts for my clients and somehow weave Diddy into these, knowing that the search traffic is just incredible at this particular time. So I would look at charts like this. I would weave Diddy into blog content. I would show a massive spike in traffic on your website and therefore justify like another 6 months of an engagement with this. But all the while, nobody's ever asking, is there a line between this and revenue for
I
my,
see what you're saying. So you're not suggesting, for a second there, I thought you were suggesting that we write blogs about Diddy, but you're saying this would be an SEO hack that an agency would do. Great example. Do you remember when this was several months ago? We were looking at, they were a land surveying company that really is very, very niche, very, very specialized. They only do public works projects like water treatment centers, power plants. I don't know, like really things that don't happen every day kind of stuff. And they do the land surveying for this. And that's all they do. And we were looking on their site because they were like, what about SEO? What about SEO? We find all this content about cybersecurity. And we're like, what does cybersecurity have to do with land surveying? Well, nothing. But it was an SEO play, like, hey, let's get people in here under the guise of cybersecurity. But it's like, yeah, how many prospects are you converting into a land surveying client? If you do, it's like pretty much by accident. Like
Yeah.
it would be as lucky as winning the lottery. It's not a strategy.
This is the thing that nobody's talking about is that, well, and first off, like very few of the people that we talk to are actually tracking, like really don't even know the lead source of their last closed deal.
It's yeah, and that's the other thing. Having sold B2B digital marketing for years, I can tell you attribution is damn near impossible. And if you're a business owner, you know that. If you've been spending money, 2 grand a month, 3 grand a month on SEO for the last 10 years, you have no idea what the ROI is on that. Because like, even if you do know, okay, this was a web lead. Okay, well, at some point the data fell off of, was this an organic site visit? Or was this a paid visit? And then you're going to inevitably have a salesperson who's like, well, I met them 3 years ago at a networking event.
Yes. And
So
that is the thing
you
that,
can't claim that as an SEO lead because I met them. They have my business card. Like, I think that's why. And the salesperson will win because they're the one who dragged in the revenue.
yeah,
And it's what we do. We're good at
right.
proving our value because we
That's,
have to.
that's exactly it. Yeah. You're spot on. And it doesn't need to be like, and again, it's one of these things that is like people overcomplicate it. When you get a new lead, they're going to fill out a form or they're going to talk to a salesperson. Hopefully you have a CRM or even just pen and paper. That would be fine. But like, how did you hear about us? There's all these complex attribution algorithms, but like, did I did like 7 free trials for software last week, and there was a drop down. How did you hear about us? Referral from a colleague, social media, Google. This is not rocket science. And if you have a sales team, like that salesperson, when they're doing discovery, hey, how did you hear about us? And like, if that was a Google search, log that. You know what I mean? You should know that at the exact point of sale. It is one of those things that like should be confirmed either directly by the customer, directly by the salesman.
Yeah, but it's never going to be 100% accurate, especially if, like, the higher transaction and longer sales cycle you've got, the less likely you will be able to track attribution 100% ever.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't see a way around that with the B2B sales cycle in the near future. Maybe eventually that will change, but there's too much that goes into it. There's too many people involved to find the zero moment of truth, as Google calls it, is very, very difficult.
So it brings us to the point, is SEO important still? Does it matter? And the answer is yes. Like it does still matter. Like we have like one foot in these two worlds. And I mean, kind of where we're staking our claim, like where we're putting all of our eggs in the basket of, unless you're an e-commerce brand, this old way of doing it, it's like to even say that it's still a tactic is almost like we almost kind of need to, because the voices on the other side are so loud talking about it. But just realistically, yes, you need keywords. Yes, you need meta descriptions on your content. But like, will that result in a significant amount of traffic inherently because you have those keywords and meta descriptions? Likely no. Likely that's probably not how commerce is going to occur with B2B brands. So, which is why we are proposing during this transitional time you kind of need to check the box, like your pages need to be fine. You need to have all of your proper tags. I mean, again, this is also just not rocket science. Like anybody tries to overcomplicate this, I would be super suspicious if I were you. This is absolutely not rocket science, especially with AI. It is just, and so I think that I tend to get in trouble because I generally am dismissive of it, but I'm like, listen, this AI is writing HTML at like a line per nanosecond, and it can be modified, it can be regenerated. It is like, it's just done. You know what I mean? It is, hey, here's how Google crawls content. All of our AI have the template. Every time Google comes out with new guidance, our template is updated. Our HTML template is updated. So it's just done, right? And so we tend to not spend a lot of time laboring over this thing that can just happen instantaneously. But rather, kind of what we're suggesting is, well, why not leverage the instantaneousness of SEO and generate useful content? Kill two birds with one stone. Of course, you need all of the proper tags, you need all the proper meta descriptions, alt descriptions, everything that you would need on a given page. But at the end of the day, who pays your bills? It's your sales teams, it's your relationships, it's your ability to stay in front of your prospects. So why not leverage the power of AI to generate like real world, like functional web content? We have been building out ProMode sales process, over the last several weeks now. And just like as you're following up with leads and staying in front of them, you need to have materials to send to them. So why not leverage AI to get everything is just going to be SEO out of the gate. So yes, we call it SEO, but why not use the ability to instantaneously publish web content to support every department in your organization?
Hmm.
SEO is going to be there, but now you're actually generating useful content that can be sent to Economic Development Council of Kansas. Like, boom, here's a spec sheet, just done. Oh, you want something else? Cool. I'm going to just whip that up for you and have it right over. Share
Yeah.
it with your leadership team. It's
This,
functional SEO is like how I'm thinking about it.
yeah. Well, this is what I mean by the world of digital marketing with AI is far more intuitive to the business leader. And this is the hopeful story of AI in marketing. Because if you're a business leader, if you're an owner, you have been trained by digital marketing agencies, by marketing people. You've been trained to think you do not know how to do it because you don't know all of these technical things and you're not going to get into the weeds of it all. And so you outsource it, you pay a lot of money to have it done. What we're saying is that thing that you want to talk to your prospect about is your content. Drop that into a tool like ProMode to create content that is technically accurate and all the things that the marketers would do. But the real value is that nugget that's in your head, that nugget of, we build data centers better than anybody else and we know it and here's why. And you can just riff it off the top of your head. That's what is your new silver bullet. Is
Yes.
the last conversation you had with your sales team, the last conversation you had with a prospect, your cautionary tale about a prospect who chose somebody else that you could just spit off the top of your head. That's your new silver bullet that you would put into an AI portal to deliver great content that then your salespeople can share, that you can throw into an email newsletter and send to all of your past prospects and your audience, that turns into social content that attracts people to your brand. That's the value today.
Yeah. The SEO aspect of it is just built in now. There's no
Right.
separate step, right? And that's kind of the thing. That's the challenge that we're having to communicate is that, okay, we have robots writing HTML. This is no longer a separate step. It is built into it. So like, again, if you as the B2B business owner, if you've been following the Diddy trial and you happen to be really into it and you think it would be funny to create some content around it, do it because you find it to be interesting and funny. Don't do it because of the SEO thing is handled regardless of topic. That is the thing. It's like you do not have to think about what are the SEO ramifications of this. It is actually, well, what's all the useful content I need to empower my team with?
Right. So
It's also as optimized. Yeah,
it's like human first SEO instead of robot first.
exactly.
Because the robots are now smart enough. This is kind of the whole point. The robots are now smart enough to know what we mean,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before they were not. We had to be robot first. It's kind of like, I don't know, children, like young children, right? Like you have to bend with their capabilities and make sure they know, let me filter this through a language you can understand. But now we're dealing with more mature technology that doesn't need that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. The you bring up a really good point. Yeah. The algorithms that are serving up our search are now primarily semantic, which means that they understand intent and concepts way a
Right.
lot more. And then if you're using a semantic tool to create semantically searchable content, it means concept in, concept out. Like this is the key idea. There's no additional quote unquote SEO step that is needing to occur with this because it's all built in to it.
Totally. Yeah. Like when my kid was little, there's no way I could have said, like when she's 3 years old, I couldn't have said, clean your room and expect her to have any idea what I meant by that. I would have to say, pick up your toys, put them in that basket, make your bed, do like step by step instructions. And now that she's 17, I can say, go clean your room. And she knows what I'm talking about.
Yep. Your website just turned 17. It's probably a good way to think about it. All right, this is a good transition. I want to talk we're talking about like how will AI reshape the org charts in marketing. So I want to kind of posit this. So a lot of people have this belief that jobs are going to go away. I disagree with that. I think that jobs are actually going to shift up the stack, and I think that we're going to see a major explosion in small, creatively niched, like single owner operator agencies. This to me is going to be the trend. So what I mean by this. So typically in marketing, the actual deliverables, by that I mean like junior web dev, scheduling, assembly, like putting your social content together, assembling campaigns, just the actual work of it all. This was typically an entry level junior position inside of an agency. And then as you move your way up the stack, there would be a strategy layer. So strategy would direct the people doing the deliverables. The strategist would have to have some level of moderate technical competency because as they were project planning, they would need to know what is possible to like deliver that strategy. Primarily on like the web dev side, they would need to have some ability to do like strategic reporting or whatever the case may be. But then you've got this like strategy layer above them. See now people working on deliverables, like to be a good strategist, it to me takes like creativity and reps. Like the ability to look at a thing from a unique perspective, understand the landscape of what's going on. Like, where's their unique angle for this thing to happen? But generally, a strategist, like just because they're like every company needs an org chart. And so it was like, okay, you do deliverables, strategy is like less grunt work. So that's got to be a layer up on it. But there's nothing inherently skill wise that would separate a strategist from somebody doing deliverables other than just the number of reps that they have.
Reps, and I would say, I don't know, it seems like some people have a knack for understanding, I want to say business models, but it's probably more fundamental than that, like understanding cause and effect
Yeah.
and looking for variables that can be moved. Every top salesperson I know is naturally a great strategist.
Mhm, mhm.
And that just, it's because you can look at, I'm thinking of chess. We play chess every night now, my husband and I, and we love it. It's like you can assess the board and understand things like risk and sacrifice and long-term benefit and short-term benefit. Like you kind of just have this gut feel about it. Most people who are strategic that I know. So in business, it's like if you're a marketing director who's strategic, what and strategy is like one of the most overused words in
Mhm.
business in general, in my opinion. And I almost feel embarrassed saying it as often as I seem to. But what I mean by that, like if someone is a strategic marketing director, I mean, they understand how this thing could possibly affect this thing and how. And then they can also have the awareness of what things matter to their employer
Mhm.
or their client if they're an agency person, right? Like what metrics are they looking at? Like, oh, you want to grow your data center project portfolio. Okay, I'm going to look for levers we can control that could affect that ultimate goal and then build some systems around that. So it's that, I don't want to say intelligence, but it's like interest. Like you have to give a damn.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of marketing directors that AI is highlighting their lack of give a damn. What do I mean by that? Well, if you show a marketing director how they can save massive amounts of time and money for their company by using AI to do the thing that they're doing every day better, that would enable them to then level up and do more strategic stuff. And I can give some examples if that's helpful, but if they can be presented that option and say, no, we don't need that, we don't want that, it tells me they are not motivated by the KPIs that are motivating the owner of that company.
Yeah.
And that is a red flag.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Because if you get lost, I mean, the main thing, you don't want to get lost in the world of deliverables somehow being special. And I think that that is a safe place to sit because for a long time, like we were talking about during the SEO segment, is like this was a walled garden of complexity that you could possibly never understand, right? That is an example of like gatekeeping deliverables
Totally.
as something valuable. And now we are saying, okay, well, if deliverables are handled, then you need to publish content on your website. Why not? Let's get strategic and say, what content do you need to generate more business, to generate more
Yeah.
revenue? Now that the deliverables, so you're everybody is elevating up the stack. And to me, like the organizational chart and marketing goes from previously deliverables had to be like a full-time semi-skilled job. This is like your first 4 years out of college with a marketing degree, right? So that was deliverables. Now the people that can handle deliverables are an intern, a part-time college student. It is your receptionist that you throw a few hundred extra bucks to go around and snap photos with their iPhone, to copy and paste emails that they receive from sales teams and project managers. It is a 10 it's a 10-hour a week part-time gig. That is really cool. Like we are at this awesome time in the economy where whatever that deliverable is, it can be a flat fee. So you have these people that now have the opportunity to like handle deliverables, coalescing it, but people's budget for that, their budget for deliverables was in the thousands of dollars a month. So if all of a sudden you can apply a flat 500 bucks a month, you handle deliverables with pro mode, now all of a sudden you just gave that person an opportunity to elevate their hourly rate, learn a new skill, Like they elevated their hourly rate from $15 an hour as a receptionist to like $75 an hour, handling deliverables with AI and becoming just like wrapping their head around input and output of AI. And now the people that were doing deliverables previously are elevating up the stack to strategy. And so these are the people that have that give a damn factor. They have that ability to look at cause and effect in a really unique way. They will then emerge if they like can manage to not get so hung up on the value of deliverables. They can move up the stack towards strategy. The people that were the kick-ass strategists, they are moving up the stack to then train those strategists and open up like the next generation of marketing businesses. Like the whole stack gets elevated.
Yeah.
Anytime an industry churns in the way that marketing is right now, everybody at the bottom of the org chart gets pushed up. And if the people at the top do not recognize that and make that adjustment in real time, they're the ones that are replaced by their previous kick-ass strategists.
I heard something that this is reminding me of. It was, I think it was Rory Sutherland again, who I love to quote. He said that AI in marketing, AI is raising the floor.
Yeah.
It's not raising the ceiling, because the tippy top of enterprise level marketing, and like the companies that do it really, really well, like they're kind of already there because they have spent so much damn money to do it. So they'll save money, right? But they won't necessarily greatly improve in the short term their deliverables, their outputs, their performance, even. They'll just save cost. But what's happening with AI is the floor has been raised, meaning the bottom company doing marketing can now do it so much better than they did. Like the optimization potential is only higher the lower you are today, and for the less money than ever before.
Mhm.
But the emergence of platforms like ProMode highlights the wrong people in the wrong seat in a way that I did not expect. It was not part of my go to market hypothesis of what are we going to find. It's been really surprising because, like, one marketing director was very honest. He's like, I don't like ProMode because I like making our social posts.
Mhm.
He makes 2 social posts a week and he really enjoys it. So he was like, I'm not even going to present ProMode as an option, knowing that it would lift that task completely from me, would allow me to not only create, but approve and launch, you know, 10 times more content every single week in the same amount of time it took me to make those 2 social posts a week. I am going to forego the efficiency vector you're offering, the massive cost savings, and the opportunity to spend my time in strategy because I enjoy making social posts. And it's like, so the reality is that company never had a marketing director because that's not the role of a marketing director.
Yeah.
I mean, the job description of a marketing director in the mid-market, and that's a $300 million company. The job description is things like budget allocation, management of resources, building strategy, directing, which is why it is a director role, directing internal or outsourced staff or both to accomplish the goals of the company. They don't have, they have a social media manager making 70 grand a year.
Yeah. They got a Canva director, it sounds like.
Right. And the reality is, if they wanted a really true marketing director, they would have to pay a lot more than 70 grand a year.
Exactly.
And maybe they knew that and they just said, look, we want a glorified social media manager.
Mhm.
And that's where marketing falls in their priority.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Another another hope that I have for the changing landscape in marketing is that there so right now most agencies niche by industry, so that they can tell people, no, we know coffee mugs better than anybody. We are the agency you come to for coffee mugs. So like that's that's another thing that really is no longer I always talk about, AI will change marketing from being vertically integrated to horizontally integrated. And one of the things that I see in that horizontal integration is the emergence of creative niche. Being like you can be like it opens the door for like a PG-13 marketing agency or cyberpunk like creative niche. So it's like whatever your brand, if you want it represented in this hyper creative, super niche way, we know how to do that. And so you come to us if you want like super wholesome evangelical brand to like the most edgy, uncomfortable. Like I see this being a really cool future that we can realize. Like this is now possible now that subject matter expertise is off the table. It's no longer
Yeah.
necessary.
I love that idea of creative niches and would love to see more of that in B2B, which is historically a pretty straight-laced kind of down the middle vibe. But yeah, I think more companies will take chances with creative niches. And when it comes to jobs, I know agency creatives would far bet to do that kind of work where they can be actually creative rather than just throwing another text overlay on a picture of a semi
That's
just all day long. Just
my God, you said exactly. It's perfect, Heather. Sorry. Got me. I like completely lost my train of thought. I just summarized the entire thing so well. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this in the past. Like, how many super creative minds are just miserable trying to do art in a commercial context?
yeah.
And unfortunately, right now, these are the people that are so defensive as it relates to AI. And I would just encourage them to think outside the box a little bit. Like it might not be it today. There's a little bit, but like hang in there 6 months or really get to know tools like Pro Mode. You're just kind of so accustomed to seeing these legacy SaaS business model AI applications. Like look, I don't know if there's many of them, but it is certainly the path that we're heading down. It's a path that I think is going to be the future of like commercially viable, useful AI will be these ecosystems where like anybody can just take their mind and like apply it to these systems and all of the grunt work is taken care of. So I would really encourage people if you are creative and you are strategic, if you have this keen eye for cause and effect, like you should be leaning into this because this is going to be the path where true creativity does have commercial.
For sure. And it's like if you think about, for years, enterprise level companies in every category, B2B, B2C, e-commerce, they've had access to machine learning. They've had access to certain elements of AI in how they get data about us and serve content to us, everyone from Netflix to I don't know, you name it, like target.com. Like these companies have had access to powerful data and powerful technology for years. And what have they done with it? They have created extremely creative brand strategies and brand assets, videos, and fun ads, taken risks in what they're creating because they know that it works. And now we all have access to this same juice to do the same thing. Yeah, like get out there and like find truly creative people who are willing to push AI to the limits to create really cool stuff for your brand. And I don't see why it can't be an HVAC company or a roofing company. Like, oh my gosh, what would the buyer response be to like a truly creative service brand like that? That's memorable.
Yes. Yes. All right. Let's switch gears from marketing and let's talk about AI for a little bit. I want to talk about, a lot of the discussions that we have are, we hear things like, well, if social media is just full of AI generated content, won't people be suspicious of that? Or how do I know that the output is going to be good? Again, this is another thing like SEO. We live in these worlds now where, like, those of us that have been thinking about AI for like a decade now are now encountering people who just recently learned about it in a chat interface. So to me, I think we're going to look back on history with the release of ChatGPT being simultaneously the best and the worst thing to happen for AI. So those of us that have been following this technology for a long time really didn't, it was always a big question of like, how are we going to touch this thing? What is it going to look like when it's released? ChatGPT,
Craigslist. It's
yeah,
going to look like Craigslist.
right, right. But there's something brilliant about OpenAI's release of ChatGPT. And they released it in a chat interface, which is brilliant because a chat interface is familiar to a 6-year-old who has ever like chatted on Roblox all the way up. I mean, alive today in 2025, there are 75-year-old people who text. They send text messages. So here, you just released AI to the world in a format that is familiar to the largest cross section of people, right? And so that is amazing. Like overnight, people could wrap their heads around a version of this technology. What's the downside to it being released that way is like only see it as a chat model. You don't see machine learning happening in the background. You
It's
don't
limited by your own definition of what you're looking at.
totally.
Which to my dad, when ChatGPT says, ask me anything, my dad's like, was the 2020 election rigged? Because he wants it to be this oracle of truth. And I'm like, that's not what it is.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
isn't Yoda. Yeah, we know. We know what it is. So I'm not going to go into it.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and so then naturally emerges this concern about like how truthful is this thing? How good is the output? How like won't people be annoyed by being flooded with this thing? That's only because their only experience of it is in this very limited, kind of most vanilla, middle of the road version of this thing. Like the AI that people play around with is it's just designed to be a moderately pleasant experience for as many people as possible, right? It's like what it was built to do. It is not purpose built. Like ChatGPT is not purpose built for anything specific, right? A moderately pleasant experience for as many people as possible.
McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So one of the big problems in AI today is that we don't have a way to, there's like, nobody really knows how to test the quality of the actual AI models. And so we're having to invent these crazy ass tests, like encoding and most people are just like building their model to the tests that they created. We're just like in this no man's land of evaluating the strength of a model. And how did we end up here? Well, we ended up here because for like 60 years, there was a gold called the Turing test, which
I think a balloon just popped in the other room. We have balloons set up for a graduation party and one just popped. Anyway, go ahead.
so for like 60 years, the gold standard of AI was the Turing test. And it was basically you could have somebody interrogating a human and a machine, asking them questions. And then if the interrogator could not differentiate between those two respondents, that would be, that would be considered passing this Turing test. So I remember this was an idea, like I was obsessed with it. It was like, it was an impossible challenge. I was like, no way will there ever be a future in which that's how a lot of people were thinking. Like, this is like in the year 22 might end up here. And this is how we have thought about this for 60 years. And in 2014, I still remember hearing about this. I think I heard about it on like Fresh Air with Terry Gross driving in my car.
I'm
Um,
Terry Gross.
so like one of the early predecessors to OpenAI, what is his name? Max, I'm gonna butcher it. But anyway, the Turing test was passed in like 33% of the times using a large language model and using a pretty crude large language model.
And this is written text only?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's believable.
Well, I mean, yes and no, actually. Like
It depends on who they're testing. Like who are the judges?
right, right. No, I agree with you. I mean, I think my point is this is something that we kind of take for granted today. I mean, we're talking like this is a 60-year benchmark that like people would go their entire careers. They would like live and die. Hopefully I'll be alive when I see this thing to happen. I mean, all of these people working in this, I mean, it's like a flying car almost, you know? Fast forward to 2020, like all of the models blow the Turing test out of the water. We no longer have a codified benchmark for AI because the Turing test today is like, yeah, we're good. Like this is the first round of testing that we do is passing the Turing test. So all of the models that we use pass the
True.
Turing test. You know,
Yeah.
what is marketing content? What is quality content? It is passing the Turing test, right? That is
True.
all that it is. So passing the Turing test is like table stakes today, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like way beyond that, really, because the Turing test is, was this written by a robot or not?
Mhm.
And of course, that's the first, like, we wouldn't even have a business if we couldn't, like, that's, of course, we have to pass that.
Table stakes now,
Right. Like, that's, it's like, do you have forks at your restaurant?
right?
You better. And then beyond that, is this accurate to our company? Do we like this as representing our company? But was it written by a robot? That has to be abundantly obvious to everyone that it could pass as human, even people who know nothing about that company.
Totally. Totally. And so what I'm positing here is that if we know that the underlying technology, I'm not talking about ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these chat interfaces. I'm talking about an underlying large language model. We know absolutely has the ability to pass this Turing test. So when it comes to output quality, or will people care or know that this was AI generated? We know absolutely that the underlying large language model technology is capable of passing this Turing test. So if output quality is poor, I am positing that that is user error, not a technology error. So it means that there is not enough new data put into the model. There is not enough like strategy. There's not enough new insight, or maybe you're not crafting your prompts. If you're using ChatGPT, you're not molding the technology. You have not developed the skill of maximizing how these tools work. So that the general idea is that the underlying tooling has this capacity. This is not an inherent concern that you should have. You should become more skilled at using it or use tools that have the skill built into it. Because again, when it comes to output, is it human? Is it robot? Is it good? Is it bad? Should be like these are non-issues today. The point should be choose your tools properly or learn how to use them. It is a skill that must be developed by
Hmm.
and not an inherent problem with the technology.
Yeah. Makes sense. And we can prove that because it works for some companies.
Yeah.
Is that too simple of a
Yeah, right?
conclusion?
Not at all. The
Yeah.
simpler the better.
Right.
Well, what do you think? You want to talk about image generation?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the last couple of weeks, I've had more people. It's so interesting to just, for the last 6 months have been, talking to people about AI, talking deeply about marketing and AI. And in just 6 months, I have seen changes in the buyer understanding of AI. The questions they ask are different. It's fascinating to just I should document that better, I think, because maybe one day somebody will want to read about it. But when we first launched Pro Mode, no one was really asking about image generation. I was kind of surprised by that, but it was like a given that we would have to bring our own images because, most of our clients are B2B. They like actual photos of their work, of their people. They want authentic. They don't want cheesy AI generated looking stuff. But in the last week, I've had several people ask about image generation. And for one, it was a deal breaker that ProMode doesn't do image generation. And I'm like, well, what kind of images would you want to generate? And for their company, it was just text overlays on images, which is the most common graphic thing I see in B2B marketing. So it's not custom, we're not talking about elaborate infographics or, custom design. We're talking about text overlays onto a graphic. And I'm like, well, how are you doing that today? Well, with Canva, she's doing it. Okay. How long does that take you? She's like, I don't know. It's pretty time intensive. And I'm like, no. And obviously I have to be polite to these people, but I'm looking at their social feed and I'm like, I'm not seeing anything in here that would take longer than 4 minutes. And I'm sure you have templates in your Canva for all of this. I'm not seeing where the lift is. So, for us, it's like, okay, we could add a Canva integration or a way to do it in a similar workflow to what you're doing today in Canva. But what is the benefit? Like, A, what's our dev time to do that? What's our level of assurance we can deliver at the level that we want to for that functionality? And then B, it's like, what are we saving in time? You're going to spend that 4 minutes in Pro Mode or in Canva. So it's a net neutral decision from a workflow standpoint. Just use Canva and then you'll throw it into Pro Mode. And we're still saving, in her case, 40 hours a month in content generation time. And she's using AI today, but not well. So, or not optimally. I'm not trying to be mean here. I promise. But it's like that mental gap of if it doesn't do everything, including image generation, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we talking about?
Well, and I think that where people are missing what we're like, our main thing is our main thesis is process and workflow efficiency, time savings, cost savings. It is operational efficiency. And we have a benchmark as a company that it has to be like a 10x improvement in those things, like a
Right.
net neutral or even a 50% improvement in those things is not good enough because that is really not the underlying promise of AI. So yeah, when it comes to AI generated imagery, I think that the time to publish worthy content it is just a crazy long workflow using AI to get publish ready imagery to where we would end up creating a shiny object for our customers if we enabled this. So
Yeah,
I
for
was thinking,
sure.
are you up for doing this little test? Do you have
Yeah.
something pulled up?
Yeah. I do have a Canva pulled up with an Instagram blank project ready.
Okay.
But I was just going to add, like, what I've heard you say before, and I agree. AI generated images, when you're using tools like Midjourney or ChatGPT or Meta or whatever, they are not there yet in terms of like being on brand, looking like something you would actually publish. So yes, we could integrate that tech into Pro Mode, but you would have to reiterate, and you're going to show us this, I realize. You would have to iterate that image many, many times, just like you do in Midjourney and any of these tools, because it's not there yet. And you talk about the complexity of the human eye, and especially when we first met, you would talk a lot about that, like I don't remember the terms you would use, but how sensitive our eye is to fake,
Hmm.
essentially. What do they call
Yeah,
it?
like the optical nerve, or but
Yeah,
like the
the
visual
uncanny
Turing.
valley.
Yes, yes. The visual Turing test is to me like that's going to be a big one. So any like truly like AI generated imagery is a process of lots of time, lots of iteration, and being okay with being surprised by something. It is, you rarely get the exact thing that you wanted out of it, but you're surprised and like, shit, that's pretty cool. I can use that. That's not a workflow for business. Like we
Right.
are improving business operations. Like, so just playing around and being surprised by something cool is not improving anything. So, you know,
Well, and the same thing applies like with the copy. If we can pass the Turing test for does this look like it was made by AI, which I think can be done today, or damn close. I don't know what the percentage of judges would be, but I think you could probably get 80 to 90% of people to think something is real that isn't, that was generated from AI, in terms of an image, especially. Not so much a video. But then what? Okay, now we've generated something in your Pro Mode portal that looks real. Is that also something that's on strategy that you want to accompany that piece of content? That's another threshold that gets into even more subjective stuff.
mhm,
Is that the best thing to talk about refrigeration for our company? It's like chances are no, which means you're going to iterate again, spending more time adding to your workflow. So it's not, yeah, it's not a X efficiency. So that's why we don't do it today.
all right, let's do our little contest.
Okay, we're going to have an image generation contest.
Yes. So I'm going to do AI generated. We're both making an Instagram graphic. So just like your standard B2B Instagram graphic. Heather's going to use Canva and I'm going to use Midjourney. And what do you think? What kind of timer you want to put on this thing? Like, let's see where we get in 3 minutes, maybe.
Okay. What's the topic of this
Anything. I'm going to
Instagram?
make just like a something that maybe Pro Mode would share on Instagram.
Okay. Agnostic. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something real world that would actually be an Instagram post.
We'll do your overlay on a semi truck.
Okay, but let's do the same like assignment.
How about we do like Pro Mode construction?
Okay. A promote construction
It's like a
like
random post.
now hiring post.
I like it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, you ready? You want to share too? I think we can do simultaneous shares.
Can we? Oh God, this is
Or
scary.
I'll just share mine. You can see your final results.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we're 1 minute down. All right. 1 minute left.
I'm not great at this.
All right. Let's call time. Let's see where we are.
Okay.
All right. Here's the closest. I'll show the closest I got. I kind of liked this. I thought this was pretty cool. That text is a little off there. That one's pretty cool. I mean, these are cool. I don't have my logo on here. Oh, see, I tried to add construction manager, pro mode. I don't know what the hell that is. Pro mode, construction manager, major. So, I probably would take this image itself and put this into Canva. If I were
Yeah.
actually doing this, I would use this particular graphic because I think it's cool. And I like the
Mm-hmm.
colors on this one. Guy does not have a mouth. That's weird. This is also cool. Base images, but I got some other steps. I am a far cry away from having any kind of job posting out there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what you got.
Okay.
That could be published. Is it perfect? No, but that is
No.
at least publishable.
Yeah. For an Instagram post, sure. I mean, I'd probably add, I was gonna add like a transparent banner.
Yeah.
Whoops, that's what I did wrong. I'd add some kind of
Hmm.
cool.
So I think, I think the point is clear. Like, I was using AI to do this thing, and I kind of got to the point to where I had something that I could take and put into Canva. Net savings, time and resources, by no means is it.
Yeah. Because, I
It
mean, you
just
would still have to add a logo. You'd have to judge the words, that aren't right. And then it's like, are these your brand colors? Are we, is this an accurate depiction of our company? Because, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you just showed me. But, unless that is my vibe, it's going to look out of place if I'm using it.
exactly. Yeah. I was surprised by those results. I was pleasantly surprised. It kind of fits my aesthetic that I like a lot. But again, the time to publishable content when it comes to text, web content, email content, social content, the text itself, 100x time and operational savings. So we make these intentional decisions uh, to really focus on publish ready content that is a massive improvement in workflows. I
And
think
publishing more content. And
exactly.
I keep mentioning the reach statistics, but I just think it's the thing that I knew. It's the thing I was aware of the least when I was selling digital marketing services to mid-market companies was I don't think people wanted me to know. No one would talk about it. Hey, this Instagram post that we just made is only going to be seen by 5% of the people who are following your Instagram page, period.
Yep, yep.
So if you want all of your audience to see it, you have to publish far more frequently.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, that's really like the twofold like value offer and education of ProMode. It's, hey, we're going to make your workflow way more efficient. You're going to do far more in far fewer hours every single month. Why are you doing that? Because creating more content is the answer to efficiency. Like
Mhm.
to your digital marketing actually starting to bear fruit.
Exactly. Well, okay, let's sign off.
That was fun.
Uh,
I didn't,
yeah, it was good times.
yeah, no, that was fun. So, yeah, this has been the Tenfold AI podcast sponsored by Promode.ai. Thanks, Matt. This was a really good one and look forward to the next one.
Right. See ya.
Okay, see ya.